You know, we need construction techniques which will require lower maintenance of the house in due course of time. That is what will make it sustainable. That means the utility bills like electricity and water are to be kept low so that the masses can afford to live in them. Innovative designs should ensure adequate natural lighting and eco-friendly designs to make sure that the houses are warm in winters and cool in summers. It will, however, be important to keep in mind that India is a vast country, spanning from Kashmir to Kanyakumari and Rajasthan to Nagaland. As one glove does not fit all hands, to use a cliche, one design will not suit the multiple climatic conditions prevalent in our countries. For Kashmir, we will require houses which should remain warm most of the year. But for tropical climate down south, we will require houses which will have to be cool most of the time. Similarly, houses in Rajasthan, while being ventilated, will have to be dust-proofed to cater to sandstorms, whereas houses in Far East will require moisture control in addition. We will require to set up research laboratories in various areas and provide them incentives by way of tax holidays. We will also have to conduct training for building professionals and institute systems of awards as incentive to the entrepreneurs. The government, both at center as well as at the states, will have to relook at their policies and institute single window clearance system to ensure that the construction is fast, affordable, and sustainable. Reminds me of a statement made by Honorable Deputy Chief Minister of Punjab in the meeting of Kradai the other day, and Mr. Naveen Raheja will agree with me because he was present there. He said, there are multiple windows within the single window which prevent the operation of the single window. Ladies and gentlemen, not only all the states will have to institute the single window clearance system, but will have to close the so-called multiple windows within the single window to make the single window effective. After all, what are the factors coming in the way of fast-track clearance of real estate projects? It may please be noted that these very factors not only delay the projects, but add to the costs, making the affordable and sustainable houses unaffordable and non-sustainable. There are many such factors, but let me just state the important ones. Center must institute a mechanism and ensure that the states are compelled to go for the single window clearance. I repeat, are compelled to go for the single window clearance. I do not know how this legislation is going to become about, but it must be done. Setting up a time frame for providing the clearances. We all know delay is the biggest factor leading to the escalation in cost of housing, almost to the tune of 50 to 100%. Since I come from a financial background, let me explain a very simple rule to you. It's called the rule of 72. Ladies and gentlemen, the rule of 72 states that if you divide 72 by the interest rate, which is prevalent for any particular event or item or commodity, it will give you the number of years in which the cost of that commodity will double. Putting it in single words, since builders go by the interest rate of 18%, if you divide 72 by 18, you will be left with 4. That means in 4 years, the cost of your project will double. So if you do not get your clearances in 3 to 4 years' time, the cost of land will double, and consequently the cost of house will almost be 1.5 times to 2 times, which will be passed on to the customer. We must allow the builder to start the construction while the sanctions are under process. After all, the designers and architects are all experienced professionals holding licenses to practice and are working within the laid down guidelines. We must provide funds to the builders at reasonable rates of interest. Taxation. Ladies and gentlemen, tax on material, service tax at all levels, and finally the registration tax. I think the government will have to do a very serious relook at taxation if they are concerned about the Aam Aadmi to provide affordable and sustainable housing. We need to go look at far and go vertical instead of horizontal. Construction techniques must be modified to cut down construction time. That is all I have to say, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Colonel Gupta. I will now request Dr. Arun Mohan, Senior Advocate, Supreme Court of India, to please share his thoughts. Thank you.
Dignitaries on the dais and off the dais. It is indeed remarkable for this conference to be organized, and Mr. Raheja, who has been the moving force, was very particular in his address this morning of an overall look. I, for one, am not a builder, nothing to do with building. I have been a lawyer, a busy lawyer. But then I was researching. We as humans, we as citizens, have certain rights. One of those rights is opportunity for shelter, which everyone at least has. But how does it come about? And which is the sector we address? So it is in that context, while I was researching, generally, justice, delayed justice in the country, I said, no. There's one more aspect I must research alongside, and that is housing for the middle class. Why housing is very important is another reason. Perhaps next to health, or in fact maybe even before that, the most important opportunity for an individual is education. And the kind of a housing a child is born and grows up in has a bearing on what education he is able to receive. Whatever efforts at education we may make, it is effort at housing that much, at the basic housing, which must proceed. Now, which is the sector I address? I think we have really useful to divide into three sectors. The 5%, the top 5%, only 3% in our country pay the income tax. The top 5% with income more than 5 lakhs a year. So that leaves us